I'm Mark.
And I'm Josh.
And this is Alter Ego Comics TV, the standing up version. Trying something new this week. Actually, we're just trying to do this really fast. We didn't want to set up a table. But lots of good stuff this week. Really solid reads. We'll kick things off with Venom #1 by Rick Remender and Tony Moore. Tony Moore is the penciler on the first couple arcs of Walking Dead. Rick Remender is writing a bunch of stuff. His creator-owned property, Fear Agent, also features pencils by Tony Moore, so you should check that one out. But Venom #1, this is a Venom series unlike any Venom series we've seen before. We've had a bunch of them. In the back it actually says this would be issue 90 of Venom if they were keeping a running tally, which will probably come back around issue number 100. But spoiler alert, I hope I'm not ruining this for anybody, but as revealed in Amazing Spider-Man recently, Flash Thompson is the new Venom, and Venom is an operative of the government. So Flash, there was a really great story about a year and a half ago, it was a backup in one of the Spider-Man issues, where Flash comes back from Afghanistan or Iraq and has lost both of his legs. And just a really excellent moving story. And now, thanks to the Venom symbiote, he gets his legs back, he's able to do all this cool stuff. But the catch is he can only wear the suit for a limited amount of time before it tries to take over him. So he can only wear it, first off, for a limited number of time, each time, but also he can only wear it a certain number of times before he's done with the program. So, interesting concept. He's dropped into basically a war zone in this issue to fight some familiar bad guys like Jack-O-Lantern and some other folks. So, definitely check this one out if you're a Spider-Man fan, if you're a Venom fan. We see a lot of Spidey supporting cast in here. Betty Brant, who's currently dating Flash, Glory Grant, other people with ants in their last name. But if you're a Spider-Man fan, you want to be reading this book.
We've also got Superboy, issue 5. This features the first ever race between Superboy and Kid Flash. Now, obviously it contains a race between Superboy and Kid Flash, but on a better level it has most of your Titan supporting cast. It has Bart and Connor running around the world and kind of talking it out while they do it. If you like the old give and take of the Jeff Johns written Titans series, if you like these characters, this is a great read, and it's really getting back to the roots of the character.
These reviews are so much faster than mine. Sigil #1 from Marvel, formerly at Crossgen, and I was a huge Crossgen fan in the late 90s when they were at the height of their popularity before they ran into money issues and went away. But Disney acquired the rights to all the Crossgen properties before Disney bought Marvel. Now that Disney bought Marvel, Marvel has the opportunity to mess around in the Crossgen universe. So this is the first issue published by Marvel under the Crossgen banner, and it's Sigil, written by Mike Carey. Basically, the premise in the Crossgen universe was that there were certain individuals that had a birthmark, a sigil, that represented some sort of mystical powers within the Crossgen universe. You could read each book on its own, each series on its own, or you could read it as part of a larger universe. So right now we're only getting 2 books. First Sigil and Ruse ships next week, and I'm sure I'll be talking about that next week. But this is a good setup issue. It actually deals with, it takes place in the contemporary times with a teenage girl who has this birthmark in the shape of the sigil. She doesn't know what it is, but she has these really vivid dreams of the past. It could be the past, could be another world, but it looks like it's from around, you know, I don't know, the 1600s, 1700s. So part of the story takes place then, part of the story takes place in present day, and that's kind of where we are. There are lots of questions that are brought up, kind of similar to, I don't really want to compare it to Morning Glories, but you know, a lot of questions were raised at the end of the first issue of Morning Glories, and you get a lot of questions raised in this issue. It'll be interesting to see where they go. It's only a 4-issue mini, so would definitely recommend checking this one out too.
Yeah, I never read any of the old Crossgen stuff from the 90s, and I really enjoyed this issue. Next up we have, in softcover, the new Gotham Central trades. Ed Brubaker and Greg Rucka, who've written like everything. Ed Brubaker's on Captain America, Greg Rucka was on Detective, on Superman for a while. Back in the 90s and 2000s, they wrote a series called Gotham Central. It's about the police in Gotham City. And it's just a wonderful book, and it's about what it's like to wear a badge in the shadow of the bat. If you like shows like NCIS and CSI, police procedurals, it's just a wonderful book, and you should totally check it out.
I think a lot of Bat fans missed out on this the first time around, especially a lot of our current customers because they skew a little bit younger. But you absolutely want to check out this series. It is top notch, and if you're a Batman fan, it's required reading.
And it also features Renee Montoya and Crispus Allen before they were the Question and the Spectre, respectively.
Jennifer Blood, number 2. Garth Ennis continues to swear a lot and blow things up and have some naked chicks. But this is, a lot of people said this is the female version of the Punisher. I would agree with that to some extent, but she's got a different background. And I don't want to spoil, again, too much, but there are plot elements which haven't been revealed yet. She's apparently taking out mob members who are members of her own family. And in order to do this, just a reminder from the last review, she's a suburban housewife and mother. She actually has to drug her family so that they fall asleep early so that she can leave the house and go out and do all this stuff at night. So it's got a really interesting premise. I'm normally not a fan of extremely violent comics, but I am a fan of this one. The writing is good. If you can handle, profanity and violence, which most of you can, I would recommend checking this one out too.
Got the first trade of DC's new Zatanna series. The Tana trade covers the first 6 issues, which is actually 2 3-issue arcs. The first of which is a fairly straightforward mystic tale in San Francisco. The second of which takes place in Vegas, and features some great little DC elements and hit characters. So if you're a fan of DC's Mistress of the Mystic Arts, you need to Coop.
Speaking backwards. Maybe. Who knows what he said? Play it back.
I just had an aneurysm.
That's just garbage you just said. Ultimate Spider-Man number 155. This is the last prelude issue of the death of Spider-Man, so we actually get into the death of Spider-Man story next issue. This is one of the best issues of Ultimate Spider-Man I've read in a long time, and they have all been good. I've enjoyed this series from the very beginning, and a lot of times more so than the regular Amazing Spider-Man series. But this kind of wraps up some things that were left hanging from previous storylines. It's a very feel-good issue. It's got some great artwork by Chris Samney, who did Thor the Mighty Avenger, which only like 5 of you read, but was an outstanding Thor book. And Josh and I were talking about this. With a storyline titled The Death of Spider-Man, we feel like Bendis is kind of being unfair to everyone by having this be a very happy, fun-filled issue and then killing Spider-Man in the next few issues. So we'll see if that actually does come to fruition, if that happens. But this is a great time to jump into Ultimate Spider-Man or the next issue. But this, if you've been away for a while, this was a fantastic issue to get back on board with.
Fun fact, killing a character just as they're actually happy is also known as a Whedon. And next up we have the trade of Time Bomb from the company that brought you Driver for the Dead and Caliber and several other great books. We have the collected edition now. We had some trouble keeping it in stock when they were in singles, but now it's out and it's great. Little known fact, 2 things make everything better: time travel and killing Nazis. This book has both.
There's more to say, but it's just an outstanding book. Very good. Speaking of outstanding books, it took me a while to get around to reading Lock and Key, but I am so glad that I did, and so angry that it took me so long to get around to it. Lock and Key is published by IDW. It's written by Joe Hill, who's also known as the son of Stephen King. It sounds like it could be a comic series, Son of Stephen King. If you're a King fan, you can definitely pick up his influence on his son's writing. And I should say that Joe Hill is a New York Times best-selling author as well, so he's standing on his own 2 feet. But this is just a really cool comic, and it's being shot as a pilot at Fox, so it could wind up on TV next fall. That's one of the reasons why I checked it out. Actually, I had a chance to talk to the president of IDW at a meeting I went to about a month ago, and he was all excited about being on set and seeing how things were really faithful to the comic series. So this is the first of 3 volumes that we currently have available. It's about a family that witnesses a horrific crime where the father is killed, the mother and children survive, and they go to live with the father's brother, their uncle, in the family home, which is called Key House. And we find out that there are a variety of mystical keys that really only the kids discover and the kids are aware of, but it's tied to a much larger story that has taken place over decades. And each volume has been as good as the previous one, if not better. So if you're looking for kind of a mystical, horror-themed book that's going to be a TV show soon, you want to read Lock and Key.
As we all know, the best things in life are to crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and hear the lamentations of their women. So in that spirit, we bring you the first trade of Skullkickers. It's kind of a nice combination of the blood and sword and fantasy of Conan, along with some of the more questionable morality and humorous give and take of the Fritz Lieber Lankmar books. You've got, well, basically, people ask me, Josh, are we actually going to hear skull kicking in this book? There is kicking of skulls, kicking of crotches, kicking and stabbing of all sorts of things. And at $9.99 for the first 5 issues plus 2 vignettes, it's a great book to pick up if you're a fan of fantasy stuff, D&D, any kind of violence of a humorous nature.
And that'll do it for this week. Again, it was a really solid week for stuff. Not a ton of books came out, but they were all very, very good. A bunch of ongoing stuff that you know that we like already. Incredible Hulks, Justice League Generation Lost. Those also came out this week, and they're also consistently good. So come on down, check out what's new at the store, and we'll give you plenty of recommendations if you're looking for them. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.